Hello, good people of YouTube. Mountbatten here, and boy, oh boy, do we have an announcement from the DevBlog today. And man, this one's a roller coaster of emotions for me. So as you tell by the title of the video, a full German battlecruiser line has been announced. On top of that, too, we're also getting HMS Incomparable as well. We will get into that here in a moment, but again, as always, if you want to read along as I read aloud, the link to the DevBlog will be in the description down below. And again, I will throw up any relevant images or artwork so you guys can see what I'm talking about. I do suggest you guys check out the article for yourself. Anyway, let's go ahead and get on into it. So, World of Warships Command Center opening event news ships. On Monday, the HMS Belfast hosted the opening of the World of Warships Command Center. We're here to share what we announced at that event. The following researchable German battleships will soon be added to the game for testing. At Tier 3, the Von der Tann. And again, I'll throw up the images of the ships as I read their names off. Tier 4, the Moltke. I had Google Lady say it like 6 times, and that's as close as I'm going to get to it. At Tier 5, the Derflinger, I think. Tier 6, the Mackensen. Tier 7, the Prince Heinrich. At Tier 8, the Zeiten. At Tier 9, the Prince Rupert. And at Tier 10, the Schlieffen. Ships of Tier 3 to Tier 5 are based on the real ships of the Imperial German Navy that participated in World War I. The battleship Mackensen was launched in 1917 but not completed. The Tier 7 to 10 battleships are based on designs developed in the late 1910s. The concept of the alternative branch of German battleships rests on short-range combat due to their low concealment, decent secondaries, and small number of main battery guns with a low range of fire. The ships are also armed with long-range torpedoes. British battleship Incomparable Tier 10, a 1915 design for a gigantic fast battlecruiser armed with 6 508mm guns and 3 turrets. Incomparable has low concealment and slim armor. Detailed characteristics of the new ships will be announced later. Please note the information in the development blog is preliminary. Announced adjustments and features may change multiple times during testing. The final information will be published on the game's website. Okay, so we do not have the detailed statistics for these ships. So we don't have their armor plating, their reload time, or even their gun caliber, except for the Incomparable. So let's start off with the German battlecruisers first. So what's very cool is that half of this line existed and was real. And the Mackensen, you can say that was real, it was launched, but it wasn't completed. The Mackensen is the same as the Prince Eitel Friedrich, pretty much. So I'm expecting a Prince Eitel Friedrich at Tier 6, so tech line version of it, but with torpedoes apparently, so that's pretty cool. It doesn't, I think I can see a couple of torpedo launchers on most of these ships. I'm not exactly sure where at on some of them, but I can see them definitely on the Schlieffen. You can see they're kind of mounted up there like the Tirpitz is. On the Prince Rupert, looks like there's 2 on the side for that one. The Zeiten, I can see that one too. Looks like she's got 3, one set of 3 per side. The Prince Heinrich, oh yeah, they're on the hull toward the rear. They're kind of like Zaustorps, alright. The Mackensen, can't really tell. The images aren't that high of quality, but yeah. So, German battlecruiser line, a full German battlecruiser line. Which, okay, so they describe it as short-range combat due to low concealment, which is definitely different for German battleships. Decent secondaries, and a small number of main battery guns with a low range of fire. So, a small number of main battery guns with a low range of fire. That's pretty much the German battleship tech trees thing too, until you get to the Grosser Kerr. First, you have a large number of main battery guns with a low range of fire. And they don't say how their armor characteristic is going to be. So if we're going off of the PEF, which again is the Mackinson, that is decently well armored, but a lot of the PEF strengths come from that she sits so low in the waterline, which it looks like a few of these ships kind of have that same thing going on. But then we get to the Z10, which just ripped the Graf Spee superstructure off and just slapped it onto a tier 8 battleship, it seems. But the ships do look like they sit kind of low in the waterline, then around tier 9 to tier 10 that they stick up a bunch more. The tier 7 and tier 6 and tier 5 most certainly do. So it might have the same armor scheme as the German battleships when you get up to higher tier. I'm not 100% for sure. So I don't know if they're going to have like 27mm bow and stern plating, kind of like the Constellation does. Or, I mean, they're designed for close quarters combat, so I'd put money on these would have a pretty decent armor scheme for battlecruisers. The main battery guns, I'd be willing to bet like the tier 10 would maybe have 14 or 15 inch guns. The turrets look like the Bayern's turrets on the Schlieffen, on the Prince, and on the Z10. So maybe from there on up we'll have 15 inch guns, maybe. I don't know the exact plans for these higher tier ships, so I don't know off the top of my head what these gun calibers would be. But anyway, going by what they said, if they're going to have small caliber guns for their tier and a small number of them, I would assume most of these ships would have like a 25-second reload time, especially up at a higher tier. Because I wouldn't think the Schlieffen, the Rupert, and the Z10 would have larger than 15-inch guns. I'd be willing to bet even like 14-inch guns. The Schlieffen may have 15-inch because it is at tier 10 at that point. I mean, you kind of do need at least 15-inch guns at tier 10 if you're a battleship and you want to do battleship things because of a lot of newer cruisers, armor schemes, and things like that. So very, very, very excited for this line. And I cannot wait till we hear more about them, hear about their armor, hear about their guns, their secondaries, their range and such. Now, they do say they have decent secondaries. They don't say good secondaries. So again, if we look at the Prince Idol Friedrich, she does have decent secondaries. They're not overly amazing, but they are pretty good for tier 6, 8.5 kilometer range if you build into it. They're fairly accurate with, of course, it being a German battleship and such. So we'll see how these go. But again, very excited for that. So the Incomparable, they actually did it. And I mentioned this in the British Battlecruiser video that I did with Val, where he proposed his line of British Battlecruisers. Now, the Incomparable, I wasn't sure if they were actually going to even attempt to add this thing in the game because of how, well, cracked out it sounds. So, she's a battlecruiser with 20-inch guns, 508mm guns, and 3 turrets with 2 guns per turret, just like the Shikishima. So, yeah. Now, she has an interesting thing going for her in that she's a British ship, so she has low concealment. So I'm assuming we'll be able to get her down to like 12-ish kilometers, just like with the Conqueror and the Thunderer and so forth and so on. Now, slim armor. That doesn't mean weak armor. That means slim armor. So she very well could have the normal British battleship-esque armor, meaning coated in 32, no special plates or anything like, the Germans and the Soviets have. But it could also mean 25mm, 26 or 27mm plating because she is a battlecruiser. And like I said in the Constellation video, they did a pretty good job of striking the balance between being a battleship and a battlecruiser, the maneuverability of a cruiser with the firepower of a battleship. They don't speak much about the Incomparable's maneuverability here. And again, we can go off of the proposed characteristics of the design, but Wargaming has a tendency to tweak those for, of course, in-game balance. So we'll see how this thing develops. But I mean, this thing's freaking massive too, y'all. Like, this thing is giant. So it'll be interesting to see this thing in game as a battle cruiser. And again, a battle cruiser with 20-inch guns. Like, good God! Now this is, I think this will be the 4th ship in game that can overmatch 32 millimeters. We got the Yami, the Musashi, the Shikishima, and now the Incomparable. So yeah, some more overmatch and inbound. But yeah, it doesn't speak much about the accuracy of the guns. I would assume it'll be something like Shikishima, to where you get some good salvos here and now and then, but it's not consistent, which would make the most sense of trying to, you know, balance 20-inch guns, especially on a platform like a battlecruiser that's supposed to be very maneuverable. But yeah, I'm shocked that they're adding this thing in. Now, am I upset that they're adding in German battlecruisers before the British battlecruisers? Well, I mean, I've been saying they needed to add in the British battlecruiser line first, because Britain's well known for their battlecruisers. But, I mean, it's okay that the Germans are coming first. I like German ships. I like close-quarter ships, as most of you know. But, I mean, honestly, I would have preferred them to add in the British ones first, because it would make sense, historically speaking, and things like that. But since they are German, I won't complain too much. But they should have been the British first. But the British are getting frickin' Incomparable, too, to make up for it. Here's your super-duper battlecruiser, British players. Take that while we work on the British battlecruiser line. Now, this does mean that obviously they are working on battlecruiser lines, full battlecruiser lines, and it wouldn't surprise me if an actual full-on British battlecruiser line is right around the corner in a couple of more patches, maybe even by next summer, which would be very much welcomed. So, again, very cool that most of these ships are historical, and again, over half of the German battlecruiser line was at least laid down and launched, and that the rest are based upon supposed plans. I don't know what plans, but yeah. And again, the Incomparable, another cool what-if ship being added into the game. I do like that. And again, we'll have to wait and see just how these ships are set up with their characteristics and stats once that information gets released. Anyway, guys, if you enjoyed the video, make sure to drop a like, leave a comment, and subscribe to the channel. We're on our way to 30,000 subs, just past 27,000 a few days ago. I cannot thank you guys enough for that. Hope you're having a wonderful Thursday. Hope to catch you guys in the next one.